Don in London, hello. It's April the 7th, 2013. My video is all about recovery. All about recovery from addiction to substances and behaviour. So my name is Don. I'm an alcoholic in recovery just for today, 7th of April 2013. And I do my videos to try and help share some experience, strength and hope of what it is to be in recovery one day at a time, and how it goes on and on, always with a 24-hour time frame, or rather from when we wake up to when we go to bed, and in some cases go to sleep, unless you're an insomniac like me, in which case you sleep strange hours, and no matter how much we might try and endeavour to bring it back to normal, there is no normal when it comes to sleep patterns, unless there is a normal. I don't know. Anyway, I'm an insomniac as well, so there you go. Some things I cannot do anything about at the moment. Maybe if I stop drinking coffee it might help. Anyway, recovery. How did it happen for me? Well, very simply, I got to a place where I couldn't stop drinking, was in a place of denial about it, thought I could use my self-will, my willpower, to get over whatever it was that was causing me to drink so much. And I've got a great big thinking brain, and it couldn't solve the problem. It could not solve the problem at all. It was an emotional and spiritual problem, how to live with the feelings I have in the moment of now and accept reality as it is. That was my biggest problem, caused by me and my drinking. So I don't really drink, I don't blame it on the drink, is really where I'm getting to. I don't blame it on me either, because if we drink over and over again to the point of oblivion, which is where I got to, I couldn't stop, no matter what I did. And no matter how much the professionals were on my side to try and help me, they hadn't got the answer either, because they were looking for a logical way to deal with an emotional condition, an addiction. So thinking didn't work for me. No matter how much I thought I knew the answers, I had to live the feelings and cope with them. What helped most was a fellowship, that fellowship being Alcoholics Anonymous, and still is today, several years later. Alcoholics Anonymous, I don't represent it, never can, never will, because it has no leaders. We're all trusted servants within it. So this video is way outside the scope of anything to do with AA, directly, but directly because AA saved my life, made it possible for me to learn how to live again as a human being who needs help. And as a human being needing help, where do I go for wisdom to keep sober? Well, to a bunch of people who seem to be sober today, or are newcomers and are just finding out about what it was like, or what it can be like to be in recovery, and for people still arguing with themselves about whether they're an alcoholic or not. AA doesn't debate whether you're an alcoholic or not. There are some questions you can ask yourself and see what answers you come up with. What is right for you? To keep on drinking and try and control it, or to stop drinking, or to stop drugging, or to stop fixing on people obsessively. It's for you to make your mind up. So nobody's going to force you into anything if you decide to go to an AA meeting. We just get our eyes opened to the possibilities of recovery one day at a time. So I share here the AA preamble, which is shared at every meeting, so you understand what AA is there to do. And I share my daily reflections as well, with step 4 in mind. There are 12 steps to help a person find their path of recovery. And these 12 steps are good because they have given me my freedom back, and that's all I asked for. I want my freedom of choice back, and I can start with to drink or not to drink. That is the question. Well, simply for me, not to drink is the answer. So the AA preamble highlights what AA is there for and what people in AA do. So here it is. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. So the common problem is alcoholism, and we share experience, strength and hope about it. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, and even I didn't have that when I first encountered AA. But it's sowed a seed. There are no dues or fees for AA membership, so if you haven't got any money, don't worry about it. We are self-supporting through our own contributions, which means we scrape by. We never have issues of money, because we only pay our rent, tea, coffee and biscuit bills, and some literature and one or two other bits. So it's never about money or hoarding it. AA, this is important. This is what you can be and AA is not. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Having said that, so AA doesn't do any of those things. You do as an individual, or might do as an individual, and you're quite right to. So individuals in fellowship can be allied to any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution. They can engage in any controversy, and they can endorse or oppose causes. And you will hear all about what people do in their lives with their own values, beliefs and opinions and their actions. But they are sharing their experience, strength and hope of life happening because they are sober. So AA is there for this. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So nobody is trying to convert you into anything. Everybody is engaged in trying to be sober today, and by sharing experience, strength and hope we hope to do that. As a newcomer I found it very hard. As a newcomer I didn't want to be there. And as a newcomer I said it was the last chance saloon where no drink is served. And it is sometimes the last chance to find a path away from what is killing us and start something new, a new life being possible. But I had to start from scratch. No amount of intelligence and thinking seemed to work, because I didn't realise that addiction is more to do with an emotional ailment, a mental illness, a disease, which I didn't want it to be, because why should I have a disease like this? How dare I? So my pride, ego and fear kept me away a long time, because I felt less than other people because I couldn't stop drinking, and my behaviour was isolating and left me hiding under houses, in basements and places like that. So a long journey has been had in recovery back into simple living. So these are my thoughts for today, based on April being all about step 4 in the 12-step program, which is about the fearless moral inventory, doing a self-appraisal of what happened, how did we feel and why, what were the resentment and anger that came up because of it, and why did we need a drink to take the edge off or fix ourselves along the way. And the answer is, well, if you were in my situation, wouldn't you drink? And the answer is probably yes, if that was the way I was taught and that's what I learned. So it's not about blame, it's about understanding. Who would have thought that a journey full of rocks and hard places, emotional disturbances now erupting on the journey from step 1 to step 4, the first 90 days, step 1, powerless over alcohol and life unmanageable, rocks and hard places, the eruption of feelings we have never really experienced sober on this emotional and spiritual journey into sobriety. And my feelings did erupt, and I don't know what it is. It was almost having a superhuman feeling of righteousness coming through. How dare it happen to me? Why me? And it was all their fault. All those things were going on, and the blaming of the world, rather than just accepting that here I am, and this is my situation. What am I going to do about it? And that's where the admit and accept came in, big time. Then step 4, from step 1, and our feelings are mad. Step 2, coming to believe that a power greater than us can restore us to sanity. Now sanity is about emotion, madness or not mad, insane or sane. My higher power in the early days was a friendly voice in fellowship, not trying to push me either way. And the same was true of an alcohol treatment centre run by our National Health Service, where they said, you know, you're facing a life and death disease. And every week, twice a week, I used to go to the treatment centre, and I was there for 2 years, twice a week. And each week, if I was lucky, I would see the same people. But many times, a new person joined our group of about 10, and somebody died, or somebody went out back on the drink and then died, because it was the very last place that people were encountering the opportunity to find the truth of how to live sober. And when you've known somebody for a year or two, and then suddenly they're not there one week, or they've cancelled the meeting because they've died that morning, it's traumatic. Because, 2 years in, how can a person go back out and do what they do? But we do, if we're not careful. And if we don't believe what we know. So my higher power in the early days was a friendly voice, any friendly voice in fellowship, not trying to push me either way, simply the hand of friendship, which I felt I could not trust in the beginning. I couldn't trust myself, and I couldn't trust anyone. As I listened to many people share their experience, strength and hope, they too have come through the madness and the emotional eruptions, then letting go self-will, and the confusion that by letting go of my will, I would be truly independent if I just kept on going, and by that, letting go my way of doing it, and finding another way, trusting other people to give me a bit of support and guidance. And that was the route back to independent, free choices again. Independence and freedom was where I started in life. Yeah, independence and freedom was where I started in life. And then decades later, starting to see that independence and freedom comes from living the truth of now, and learning to cope, and learning to ask for help. Because we're not superhuman, and when extreme things happen, we can cope maybe for a while, but we're not designed to cope forever at extreme levels. Now, step 4 again, the fearless moral inventory. All my life at work have been about helping people, by them understanding their strengths and weaknesses. And for many years I was engaged in developing the right sort of training for people and how to undertake self-appraisal without breaking people into pieces. And this is very important to me, because by the time I got to fellowship I was very broken, and I didn't trust anything I'd done before, because how could it be that I was where I was? So all of the thinking, self-appraisal stuff, yes, it worked normally in a normal person's life, with normal standard feelings around normal living. But I've been at extremes for years, trying to sort out extreme problems in organisations going through change and crisis. So I was always working on the edge of, on the crest of that horrible wave of change. And for many years I was engaged in developing the right sort of training for people and how to undertake self-appraisal without breaking people into pieces. I was very aware of my own assets and liabilities, and yet denial made it very possible for me simply to scratch the surface and not look too deeply. I made a promise to myself in recovery to try, dig and delve out the truth of who I was and who I could be, who I was back then and who I can be today. All that I really needed to do was be open, honest and willing, with courage to change. All those nagging doubts and the resentments had always made me responsible for things which were beyond me and my responsibilities. I often took the heat when things went wrong in the past. My pride and ego played their part in this, because if I was wrong in some way, then I would take the rap for everything. And I started to see through the self-appraisal my assets and liabilities, which was helping me understand simply how to be a human, no more important and no less important than anyone else on the planet today. So I don't have any other rights other than the same as everybody else. Yeah, step 4 again, this is about rocks and hard places when we do the self-appraisal. Anger and resentment at myself for not being able to make things better, for not being able to fix things, that I had become materialistic, that I had become casual in my relationships and superficial and indifferent to myself and others. Why could I not cherish more, love unconditionally, and be useful and happy in my endeavours? And then my best friend in the bottle had stopped working, and the oblivion became harder and harder to achieve. So I relied heavily on blocking out and blotting out. Even though people sought me, they sought me out when I was really, really suicidal. And the only reason why I didn't commit suicide was the impact it would have on my family, especially my mother, who had done nothing to deserve this. So people sought me out to try help and put me back together. The fear of contact with another human being was I repelled it at all costs, because I did not want to break down further, because I never thought I would survive and really didn't want to survive back then. And writing step 4, visiting all those rocks and hard places, it taught me that I am as human as the next person. I'm not superhuman. I needed all the help possible to keep this journey going through step 4, one day at a time. So step 4 is no more horrible than life, really, the life we have led, understanding it and starting to live a new life. But it's hard work, because we go into the places where we fixed the outcome with drink and drugs and people. Fellowship helped me realise that the worst burnt out case is still human, still a human being. And I was a pretty bad burnt out case. I had no love for myself, and the friendship given freely was difficult to comprehend. I just didn't understand why. When fear, pride and ego kept me locked away, and the suggestion that it was okay to have all these horrible feelings erupting because there was nothing in between me and them. My feelings were me. My emotions are me. The feelings we have are what we are. So all my thinking about, I can beat this, I'm better than anyone else at this, and I can prove it to you. The thinking side of me is not me. It's a thinking process. What is really me is me, the emotional human being. And that was what broke. The emotional human being was broken. And attached to our feelings, our emotions, is a thinking capacity which can confuse and suppress everything that we are. And with a bit of help from a substance or something fixing us, we push away our emotions. We feel life, and it affects our mood. And whatever mood we are in, we feel the impact on our thinking. We feel something and we act on it often without thinking of the consequences. When we were drunk, we felt all manner of emotions and usually acted on them immediately without thinking. Just remember the old days, getting blitzed and then finding a stranger in your bed the following morning, often a happy awakening, with all the confusion that ensues from those times, like breakfast, finding out their name, them finding out our name, and saying, where am I? Because emotion to action without any thinking in between. And that's what's going on a mad one. Going clubbing, getting blitzed is all about emotion to action without the thinking. As we start to understand how we used to fix, either a substance, a person, place or thing, to allow us to continue to tread and trudge our journey, we can see clearly that heightened and extreme emotions led to heightened and extreme actions. The part we took away from the old days was love most often, and we had no thought of the consequences. Emotion to action, without the thinking part in the middle, made us feel powerful in our choices and free from worry about the consequences. And in step 4, as we go through our fearless moral inventory or self-appraisal, we get to see how emotion went to action without the thinking and the consequences being considered, which then led to resentments afterwards. Very often because we were not ourselves, and the people we were with were not themselves, we made pretty bad choices, and the old blame game came to the fore. It was the drink that made me do it, or the substance, the people I was with, the place where I was, and the things we were all doing back in the day. So we understand why we went from emotion to action, because we took out the thinking chip, because it was unhelpful to our desires for physical and emotional satisfaction at extremes. So step 4, clearing the wreckage of the past and seeing our part in it. We get to share it with a power, with a higher power, and another human being. Regarding the higher power really depends on your beliefs. The higher power, God as you understand him, for believers. And for agnostics and atheists, it's not a problem. You too have a higher power, even though you don't know it. And what is the higher power for an agnostic or atheist? The truth of now, the love we have now, becomes the higher power. The truth of sharing with others and learning from others makes our power greater. We're starting to learn love, how people love us even though we don't know it. And even if we don't show it very well, we do love other people. And so something is happening. We are changing, and that is down to a power greater than us. Denial becomes useless to us, because denial is only required when we live at extremes and cannot cope. Coping with the truth of now, how to love and be loved back, living in the moment, we can ask for help at extreme times, because we still face them. And when our feelings are extreme and we are sober, we are less likely to jump to action without thinking about the consequences today. We are human, and sometimes we will jump straight from heightened feelings into heightened actions because we are human. Simply because we are human, and sometimes we need to act quickly to save another. We need to act quickly to stop something which is wrong. And we are probably right to move from emotion to action, because we are learning sober when we need to do this, one day at a time. So it's not always emotion, thinking, action. Sometimes it's straight from emotion to action, because there's a danger or something which really needs to be stopped. Somebody walking in front of something, somebody about to stick their hand in the fire, somebody about to, whatever it is. All about step 4, original, coming out of that. Step 4, letting go pride and ego. Letting go being the champion who speaks for everyone. Letting go the notion that we are better. We will still feel like we know better on many occasions. And still, with all that knowledge and a crusade at our fingertips, we can shout at the world. We can shout at politicians. We can shout at organisations and institutions. And we're still powerless over them. And the resentments can flow. Every human who needs help of one sort or every human who needs help of one sort or another is probably in a queue when it comes to organisations and what they can do. Medical, housing, social, psychiatry, counselling, stopping the drink. Every human is probably, from professionals, we feel like we're in a queue. And we are. And we're still powerless over them, and the resentments can flow. And when it comes to organisations and what they can do, and this powerlessness as a crusader and a champion of a cause, in the face of all adversity, can stop us from asking for help when we need it most. And we are living at extremes of feeling in the moment of now. If we put ourselves on a pedestal and start shouting the odds. The odds are that we move back into resentment, pride and ego, keeping us valiant, and we have lost the courage to change, faith in doing the next right thing, and not asking for help, simply bellowing at the world for being unfair to every human we represent on the planet. Better to step off the pedestal, ask for the help from the right people at the right time, and sometimes let go and let someone else fight that battle, or we end up being at war with ourselves and feeling less than human, with the mind and intellect of a superhuman battering ram, battering ourselves to death. We are not incompetent, and we are not superhuman, and we need not fight battles on behalf of people and rob them of their voice. Sometimes we need to encourage others to stand and speak for themselves today. And why should we get in the way of them speaking for themselves? Because they also need to develop their courage and confidence. And the world is more open these days, even though we can be discouraged by the prejudice we still find of those who do not understand where we are coming from. If we cannot share and educate them, we are powerless over them. And if they have power over us, better to step out of the way. Because as a single entity, we get squashed, get resentful, and then where are we? So, I've missed a bit. Or I miswrote it. Even though it's rocks and hard places. When we do a self-appraisal, anger and resentment at myself for not being able to make things better, for not being able to fix things, that I had become materialistic, that I had become casual in all my relationships, and superficial and indifferent. Why could I not cherish more, love unconditionally, and be useful and happy in my endeavours? And then my best friend in the bottle had stopped me working, and oblivion became harder and harder to achieve. I really have lost my place. Silly me. From battering ourselves to death. I got my pages mixed up. Step 4. How am I feeling today? It's Sunday. The sky has been blue since dawn, and there are contrails over London. Contrails are those sky lines you see at the back of aeroplane jets. Contrails over London, big jets of people coming and going. The air is sparkling, cool and fresh, which is unusual for London, being a city of multi-millions. And I can feel life deeply today. The emotional life, the spiritual life, feeling right in the moment of now, not being caught up in small matters, which are things I'm powerless over as well. Not being caught up in the big world of news, politics and organisations which are far bigger than me. Even though all those big things would benefit from my opinion and me running them, that's not my job anymore, nor should it have been in the past, because these big organisations with leaders, if the leaders are like the ones I used to know, are so far from reality, stuck in the vision of where they ought to be, they do not pay attention to what is going on today. Hence all the big crunches we've had recently over the last few years. They are not in touch with their day-to-day business. They really aren't, because if they were, their accountabilities would be far greater and they would be paid far less. Anyway, I don't go there because I'm not superhuman, and nor are the people in them right now. The truth of my situation: do I want to be right? Do I want to be happy? Can I be right and happy? I can be right and happy about having the freedom to choose my priorities, my choices in life, and to comment in a productive way on the big issues if I can. I've got my life back, my feelings in the moment of now. It does not mean I'm always happy. It means all my feelings work depending on life being good, or when life is bad and when life is ugly. Then my feelings reflect that too. Every feeling works, contingent on my spiritual condition. which is trying to live in the moment. I know what to do, what I can do, what I cannot do, and still learning the wisdom to know the difference today. Even maybe I ought to put page numbers on my notes. I'm not here to be perfect, to create a perfect scenario. Far from it. Life is imperfectly perfect in the moment of now, and if I accept that life is imperfectly perfect and it's difficult, then it ceases to be difficult, as M. Scott Peck suggested in his book The Road Less Travelled. And he was just before on it, his obituary said, "The chain-smoking, gin-sodden philanderer, M. Scott Peck is dead." That's how it started. Daily Telegraph, all those years ago. And it made me smile. He did live to a good old age, and whether it was chain-smoking, gin-sodden or philandering, when he said that life is difficult, he made his life difficult, obviously. If we accept it's difficult, then we can cope with it, cope with the reality of it. If I have a drink, it's going to take the edge off, and it will be a fix. Why fix reality? All I need is help sometimes. Fellowship helps me every day. 12 steps, friendship, fellowship, freedom to choose my path. I'm under no obligation morally to anyone other than to be myself, open, honest and willing, be truthful, be fair, find out what integrity is today, all those things. And the serenity prayer, which is a meditation as much as anything, can do, can't do, and the wisdom to know the difference. It's to God or truth, love as you see it. An exhortation to the right way forward. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it is just for today. Ooh, missed the button.